At 6 p.m. on Monday, January 26th. Stephen, can you please take the roll?
Chair Moore,
Here.
Vice Chair Warner,
Here.
Commissioner Willem, Commissioner Harris, Commissioner Martin,
Here.
Commissioner Kwan,
Here.
Commissioner Vander Gallion,
Here.
and Commissioner Shukla.
We do have a quorum. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda for today's meeting?
Seconded.
Motion made by Martin, seconded by Vice Chair Warner. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? The motion is approved. Can I also have a motion to approve our meeting minutes from our January 5th meeting?
Can I make a comment here? I did want to apologize. So those meeting minutes, there was apparently a glitch in our program. I think it's the way that they're changing the approvals. So some of the in the program, like I could pull them up and show them to you. All the motions are in there, who made the motions, but some of those motions are not showing up. They didn't show up in the publication. So all the text and everything is the same. It's just who made the motions for whatever reason is locked out for the general public. And so we sent an email to the clerk's office and we're going to fix that. When I published it on Friday, I thought that I had solved it by extending the rights to everybody. And Rebecca just pointed out to me an hour ago that that's not the case still. So we'll have to fix that on our end. Apologies.
So should we approve these minutes as they are? And then approve the amendment when you bring this?
Yes, we can do it that way.
So there was,
Not approve them as they are. Correct.
I think we wait. I think we don't approve the minutes. So that would be my understanding. So I think since there's going to be changes to the minutes that we know hand, it's not like we're going to approve something that will later have a correction. We kind of know a correction is coming. So I think we shoot down the motion and we just wait. We'll approve 2 minutes for this meeting and then the January 5th meeting at our February meeting. So remind me, who made the motion to approve the minutes? So Vander Gallion, who seconded the motion? Okay, so we're gonna go back to the original motion. So motion made by Vander Gallion, is there a second to approval of the minutes?
No.
No. Okay, so we're just not gonna approve.
Motion passed.
Yeah, there is no motion.
Motion fails.
Yeah, so there's no motion. So motion, we do not approve the minutes from our last commission meeting. So Stephen will just know, we'll just have those meeting minutes for our next meeting.
Okay.
Written correspondence has been in the public record. Just take note of that. Is there communication from the audience? There are no communications from the audience. Business agenda 4.1, elections of Transportation Commission Chair and Vice Chair. So we kind of punted this decision from last meeting of just trying to figure out what the best course of action would be, because I really don't want to be in the chair position for another 3rd year just to kind of let someone else take the reins. So we're going to kind of have the same discussion of seeing if there's an interest from someone in our body who is willing to be chair.
You have interest in that?
Passionate about this, but organization and parliamentary procedure are not my forte. Level 100 interest.
Oh.
But curious to see what other people they have interest.
So I want to kind of follow up to the conversation last week, or last meeting, just 3 weeks ago, I think. So after the meeting last session, I had a wonderful opportunity to talk to Councilmember Whalen, and then Mitch and I talked, and Stephen, you were there, and I talked to a couple of you guys. And then also had an opportunity to go home and talk with my partner. I think originally my stance was that while I have interest in the position, this wasn't something that I could take on at the moment. But after that conversation, I need to revise my stance, which is I'm still interested in the position and actually would have the capacity to take that on. It's something that commissioners were interested in. But just wanted to kind of share a little bit of like how the last couple of weeks have gone and good conversations with people and understanding what is needed from the position and sort of where the commission's headed. So, if the commission was still interested in, having me serve that role, I'm open to that, but also totally understanding that's, if the commission's like, get out of here. Totally open to that too, like, so, but just wanted to kind of share.
I move to elect Commissioner Warner as chairman of the board of commission.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Vander Gallion, second by Martin. Discussion.
So it's totally separate then from the vice chair or whatever.
Yeah, this is just chair. Yep. So, and I made this comment in December, I'll kind of repeat it in January, like, as much as I was flattered for people to want me to continue as chair, I kind of did make it my expectation I wouldn't really want to do a third year, just to kind of let other people on the body serve. As my vice chair has noted, he has been on a lot of the outside things of interviewing, potential new board members, being CC'd on emails, and kind of working with me on things that come up beyond our monthly meetings. And the whole goal of chair is literally just the procedural end, making sure our meetings are being conducted in an appropriate manner, that commissioners feel like they're heard, and that the chair just kind of runs the body. So I think, I kind of want to give that to someone else. So I think, Nathan being vice chair would be a good chair. Most of the time, you don't have to be vice chair to be the chair. But I was vice chair and then I became chair, so it's kind of becoming this kind of, good experience. If you're a vice chair, you could hopefully maybe come to the chair position. So I think, Nathan would do a good job and add a different perspective and, bring something different, to continue on from what Julie was our chair. I'm the chair, and then hopefully, if Nathan's elected chair, this be a good continuity of chairs from our commission. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor vote, yay?
Yeah.
All those opposed? Okay. Congratulations, new chair.
All right.
So can we, have a discussion on vice chair? So obviously, in our, administrative rules and how we work, we usually elect both the chair and the vice chair to assume the duties of the chair in the absence the chair is not at a meeting. So you're kind of second in line to just run everything. So is there a person interested in the vice chair, position?
Nominate myself for vice chair.
Seconded.
Motion made by Martin, seconded by Chair Warner. All, discussion. I'll say something. So, Martin, I, interviewed you when you first came on the commission. You've been a very active member. It's good to see new blood, kind of from new members that I've had the privilege to interview, to be on our body. So I look forward to you being in the vice chair role to kind of work, and support Nathan, as chair. So, no.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Okay, motion passes. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Chair Warner.
Yeah.
And then, I'll ask Nathan, do you want to run the meeting now, or do you still want me to run it? Because usually I leave it at the discretion of the new
I
chair.
don't want to, but I probably should.
Yeah. So you run the meeting now. So thank you all. I'm now gonna give the new chair to continue conducting our meeting.
All right, that takes us to business agenda point 4.2, discussion of the 2026 Transportation Commission meeting schedule revisions. And Stephen, is this one that you are bringing to the group?
I'm-
Or am I looking?
I'm
ooh,
looking at a-
the wrong- looking at
Yeah.
one meeting back agenda.
January.
Yeah. Stick that on.
I see 4.2 is traffic data report.
Hey, crash data report, let's talk about that.
Thanks, Stephen, for pulling this and providing it. It's appreciated. Yeah, I would like to echo that. Thank you, Stephen. I think I looked at it, and I think useful to glance at right now, and I think as the reports continue, I think it'll be even more useful for helping us function as a effective body by having more data, being able to look at patterns, problems, and so on. So thank you for the effort.
Yeah, could I ask something? Is there anything that would be helpful in this report? So I basically just took that, like I just printed it off the program, so I did a filter, which you can see the filters is East Lansing, pedestrians involved, and then the time frame I can set that separately. So it's it's a quarter, so it's 3 months at a time. Is that what was kind of expected, or is there, okay, so that's, okay,
Does this include Clinton County data?
yes.
The immediate comments on that, but I think as time wears on, some things may become more apparent.
Okay,
Like a data dictionary or something would be helpful, like what does a non-traffic crash mean? Or what is the different levels of injury, behavioral countermeasures? I guess those aren't the things that I necessarily understand.
Explain this real quick.
Right.
So a non-traffic crash is when there's not a vehicle involved. So if a bicyclist gets hit by a pedestrian, and there's injury on any public sidewalk or public street, that becomes a non-crash. It's I'm sorry, what is it called?
Non-traffic crash.
Non-traffic crash. So, or if, yeah, so if it's a bicycle or a pedestrian, even a pedestrian is walking down the sidewalk and it's a public sidewalk, trips and falls and hurts themselves, there needs to be an incident report written up, so it becomes a non-traffic incident. So those would usually be involved in it. There's an injury almost every time with that. Because if someone just trips, they don't get in your report.
Right.
For liability with the city, did the sidewalk, is it whatever, where was so that would be a unique thing, that if it happens on the sidewalk, it still would be considered a crash as compared to, and then, the severity of the crash is, can you hear me or do you need to hear me? Okay. So there's the different levels of crashes. I lost my spot. So there is total crashes, injury crashes, and fatal crashes. But then further down, it says possible injury, no injury, possible injury, suspected injury, or fatal. So those are on what's called the UD-10. That is the form that police officers will take a crash on. They've got to determine what that is. So a possible injury is the person's complaining of a neck issue, but they don't know that really, it's like, I'm just kind of sore. Then you put a possible injury. If a suspected minor injury is it's funny to call it minor injury. It's like possibly a broken bone or something that is something that they can have easily taken care of. And there's actually another category, I'm not sure why it's not on there, would be debilitating injury and then a fatal. So it's sometimes those have to get upgraded later based on new information that happens at the hospital. So it is just the opinion of the police officer at the time. This is not a doctor doing this. This is not a medical professional. And again, this UD10 is basically the opinion of the person taking it. So you can't kind of come back and say, wait a minute, that categorization I disagree with. But that's kind of what those two categories are.
Just to clarify your point, those are taken at the scene. So if something were diagnosed a day or a week later, there wouldn't be a follow-up to that.
So in rare, whenever someone ends up passing away later, then the police are required to go back and change that. But if it's just from a minor injury to a more major injury, that generally would not be changed.
Okay.
Because to change that, it's kind of a process because they get filtered into the state police right away. And then to change that up is actually a little bit laborious. But yeah, so they're required, even if someone passed away a month and a half or 2 months after, then it would consider that would have to be changed. But it's the assessment at the scene, and sometimes you think there's a bigger injury than there are, and sometimes you don't think there's injury and it ends up being it. So it's the opinion of the writer.
One of the, I was curious about the behavioral countermeasures when it says like BC older drivers. Is that like it's when I see behavioral countermeasures, I think this is something that could be done to prevent this from happening in the future, possibly. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure what the state determines that older drivers are, because the person taking this UD10 just writes down the birthday.
Yeah.
They don't determine, there's not, what age range people fill in. So every passenger and every driver, you have to have an age for, otherwise it will reject the form. So
Yeah.
the state obviously determines younger or older. I don't know what that determination is. I thought that was an interesting thing, it was an older driver.
Yeah, I looked it up. Of course, never tries to track GPT, but I was curious about the same issue, and they claimed that behavioral countermeasures, this was some indicator that, yes, it was older drivers, which was kind of interesting that of the total of 6 pedestrian crashes, 3 are listed as older drivers with that. I think it just means that would be the educational program that would be indicated as something that might help. Does that make sense? I mean, I don't know if that's really true, but that's what it told me.
Yeah. I think some of these are probably just filters from the program itself. They may just be extracting information from the police report and applying a filter itself. So I'd have to look that one up.
In terms of senior is a certain age, I know that would probably fill into that.
Well, it's kind of interesting. The applicable bar method somehow. Whatever that means.
Beyond 65, which is senior, and anything less than 25 is younger. And younger has 2 classifications. It's grade. So for the state of Michigan, for the
It's
state of
the button right there in the front. There you go.
for the state of Michigan, senior population is anything beyond 65. There are 2 categories, 65 to 74 and 75 and above. And for younger, again, there are 2 categories, everything between 22 to 25 is higher younger, and between 18 to 21 is younger. And specifically, even the insurance rates vary. So if there are fatal crashes and things like that, the claim amounts, if it's a victim or if it's someone who has been prone to an accident because of anyone under the same category, the claim and the amount and charges and severity changes. That's how it is.
Thank you.
And I was curious, I'm not sure if you would know this, Steven, but do you know if there's like a public facing API to be able to access this sort of information?
There's the MyCat or there is a public, you talking about just crash data in particular?
Well, like what you've done here, but is there like a way that I could just like go and like
I could give you a login. No, this is, this particular program is, you have to be, you have to be a municipality or a state police. It's police related. Um, the new metric is the program, so it's different than, but you can do all the same filters and stuff, very similar publicly. It's just that I think it's my cat. It's like anyway, it's all public information, and I think it has very similar filters.
I understand that the public doesn't have access to the data in that database that Stephen just pulled from. But we do have access, are you talking about Michigan crashbacks, which we do have access to with this, all the filters, but that's 1 year old, right? It's
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So yep.
That's why I was requesting this, because I myself, as a regular person, don't have access.
Yeah. And
So connecting an API, I don't think would.
I just don't know how those two interfaces compare. I think it's the same, very similar filters, but maybe there's something different in the metric. I'm actually not certain. There is, yeah. It's pretty robust as well.
They have obviously some kind of deal with this database, so they can kind of extract all the data. But I don't think we could even have access to 1 year old data. So it's just some special deal. It's very surprising.
And the one beta on this was the one at Saginaw and Cooch.
Yeah. Okay.
And that was determined that the person was outside the crosswalk.
Oh,
And I don't believe they're still, and I think it's been closed. But that was a determining factor in the crash. Outside the crosswalk.
would be interesting to look at the actual, whatever the number of that report is. You something?
I can't get access any more than anyone else can, but,
Oh, but what do they call it? UD tabs or something?
yeah, it's uniform,
Something.
it's always been called the UD10, I'm not sure the exact word.
Okay, but I think, yeah,
That would be a specific, that would be UD10 and a full investigation, whenever there's a fatal, it's a full investigation from what's called the Ingham County Regional Crash Investigation Team.
oh, I see. Not just East Lansing.
Right, so because there's so many different fails in the whole King County region, when that happens, you get called up. Everyone gets called up with the first 4 people that can respond, go, then see. So I spent 20 years, or 18 years on that team. And in the middle of the night, you get called up and you go, okay. As long as there's one person from East Lansing, from the East Lansing team, it would go to an East Lansing crash. So those people are experts at all the measurements, all the photographs, all that stuff, because it's not just a U10, but it's a very extensive investigation, including black boxes and a lot of information.
Stephen, is there any context around the numbers that can be provided? Sense that, does the city have thresholds or ranges that you view as historical norms, or, and obviously we would love if all of these things were zero.
Right.
But indicators to you that there is an area that you want to focus on or the city is focusing on?
No, I think that we don't have any number or like trend, I guess you could say. I think the closest that we would have is just the historical look we did that through the non-motorized. And I think every couple of years, the city kind of produces like a publication or some kind of transportation related document. It kind of aggregates the data and kind of pinpoints where the trouble areas are. There's nothing, this is kind of the new ongoing is probably what we have going on.
Any additional discussion? On to the next agenda point. Scroll back. 4.3, set a public hearing for Cowley Avenue parking permit project. Then, is it additionally in 4.3 is the Southeast Marble neighborhood meeting update, or is that 4.4?
It should be 4.4.
Got it. Thank you. So setting a public hearing.
Seems like we're wanting this to happen on March 2nd, and it's just coming to us to say, make a motion and yeah, I guess like, yeah, what are the
Yeah.
steps for us to set a public hearing?
I can clarify if I may. Yeah, this would be setting a public hearing. So this was, looking at Cowley Avenue, which we talked about in this commission before. To meet that ordinance, it has to go through the public hearing phase. It's not to say that it's going to go forward or get approved, but it is the process to be approved. So you have to set a public hearing, and then have the public hearing, and then we'll do the similar thing according to the ordinance on the council side. So council also has to have, setting a public hearing and then having the public hearing. There's a certain period for notifications to go out to the neighborhood, for them to be notified, and public input and all that. So I did want to, I put all the information on here in case you guys wanted to discuss any of those items. It is a little bit more of an unusual circumstance as you read in that, and I can explain some of that if that's helpful, or if it makes sense from the report, we can just hold off until the public hearing.
If the requirements were met, then why are we going through this?
The requirements were not met, technically. So by the ordinance, you have to have 75% of the available parking spaces, and parking spaces defined as, you add a foot on each side of the car, and you go through, you count the number of parking spaces, and you see how, on any given time, you kind of randomize it, but you see the availability of parking. So it's 75% of the parking is taken 75% of the time. And that's after, you've gotten the petitions and the signatures for the petition. What we found was that that didn't meet the threshold for the 75%. But if we had just looked at the southern part of Cowley Avenue, in other words, just the portion from Grand River Avenue up to, however far into the street, that's where the bulk of the cars were, and they were predominantly, assuming, I think they were non-residential at that point. So in our minds, we could go back and do a study for just that portion, and then permit park, do the whole bit for just that section, and that would qualify. If we did that, though, we would have permit parking for just the southern portion of the road, which would push all that traffic conceivably up, all the way up to Oak Ridge, if that makes sense. So in our minds, even though it doesn't, and it's pretty close to the threshold too, that's the other part of it. It's not 75%, it's maybe like 65% or 70%. It's fairly close. But there's a little bit of technicality there that we wanted to present to council, because the city wants it, the residents want it. City wants it for operation side of it. The residents want it because of just the extra parking, and then leaves don't get picked up, and there's other troubles there. So anyway, we presented that logic and that argument to bring it for recommendation, I guess, and then see where it goes from there.
And to summarize this recommendation, it sounds like we studied the whole road, the south between Grand River and Oak Ridge would meet the requirements.
So
Less of Cowley Avenue than that.
Yes, less of that, yeah. So it would be, and this is more informal, this is just from visual, as the guys that went out there taking the counts could visually see, like north of, a couple 100 feet unimpacted. South of there, yes, you are usually seeing the bulk of all that traffic, all the cars parked. So that's where you don't normally see a parking permit program for just half a street. Already we're kind of tacking it on to the rest of the Chesterfield neighborhood parking permit in order for it to qualify, because you have to have 2,500 feet. Again, this is all per the ordinance. So there's some pretty strict things, in order to get around that. We said this is an amendment, which goes through the same process as the regular permit parking program, but we're amending the existing program for Chesterfield Hills to attack on this section.
Even is it the case that the way that the kind of guidelines are written, that if you get above the 75%, I don't know if I would say you would automatically qualify for that. That would be the indicator that yes, you do qualify. But if you're below the 75%, it doesn't necessarily mean you cannot have this. It would just be more up to the discretion of city staff at that point. So,
I think the way that the ordinance is written, it is a little bit more restrictive. I'd have to go back and read through that again to see what's actually permissible, but, generally you would have to meet that threshold in order for it to proceed to the next step. But again, we had some discretion there, the staff did, and so we thought we would bring it forward anyway and answer those questions as they came up.
Here. Vote here, and then ultimately city council can do,
Yes,
city council can either accept this or not accept this based on the whole totality of circumstances.
yes,
oh, but the one thing I want to make sure, what you're asking today is for us to schedule a public hearing.
Correct. Yeah.
We're not evaluating the actual recommendation.
Okay,
So this is just, do we want to have a public hearing
So a public hearing could be clear here in our regular meeting, right?
on March 2nd? So it would be not the meeting,
It'll be a
the
special,
February would be the next. The March.
I mean, it would be one of our
Correct.
transportation meetings, and there would be a section for
Yeah,
that.
business agenda. So I guess we are looking for, well, unless there's any additional discussion of it.
Does it make a motion? I move to set a public hearing for the proposed Galley Avenue parking permit program for the scheduled Transportation Commission meeting on March 2nd.
I second.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Van de Galen and seconded by Mitch. Welcome to the making motions and seconding again. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Carries. So then moving to agenda 4.4, Southeast Marble Neighborhood Meeting Update. So this one, I was reading through notes on this, if I remember correctly. This was sort of an extensive reading of the actual meeting. Stephen, is there an action item that the city is looking for here, or just discussion from the?
nope, it's just purely informational in case there was any input that the commission wanted to provide. I was hoping Commissioner Harris could be here. He could not, unfortunately, but he was actually at that meeting, being in that neighborhood, so.
Yeah, just go ahead.
I was there. Very lively meeting. I think there was a great amount of information. For costs, that helped. Yes, he was there helping to lead it, and it's very interesting. There wasn't any complete uniform. That's all this. Half the group really loves the fact that Haggard owns 2 lanes, the other half don't like the fact that Haggard owns 2 lanes. There's some discussion of stop signs. There wasn't any complete uniform result, but I thought it was a really good beginning of the continuing on of the discussions. And Ms. Lacoste has got a good handle on where that neighborhood is. That's my assessment.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks again for organizing that. Again, I know it's really important to the neighbors there. I'm sure they're really thankful to have this attention and feedback. And yeah, looking at the presentation, it's really nice to see the possible recommendations of traffic circles. Such,
They really want traffic calm.
Yeah.
There was uniform. Voice of the entire room is everybody wants more traffic calm.
Yeah, and I think it is interesting that it seems like the idea of traffic calming and like the different tools that are available is, new information to some people. Because I think the reason that neighborhood wanted stop signs so bad is they want traffic calming. That's the only thing. And when we say, well, you can't have those, you can't have stop signs, that's that ruffles some feathers, so it's nice to see that, yeah, providing other options and hopefully, yeah, getting people on board with the other options. And I'd like to, yeah, see it's, you know, as much as we can do there. Yeah, looking at it looked like the, police calls from the neighborhood had jumped drastically this in 2025 compared to years past. That normally it was around like 30,000 a year. And 2025 was over 40,000 calls. Is what if I was reading the data correctly. That's crazy. That's that's flabbergasted to see that it was that many. That the fact that it's gone up that much too is wild. So yeah, any sort of traffic calming and, you know, self-enforcing mechanisms to help guide the traffic to more neighborhood speed, and even, you know, taking it as far as making, you know, what's known as like slow streets or neighborways or bicycle streets that, you know, that are mainly for, you know, the neighborhood or slow traffic to really communicate. Yeah, just want to say thanks for putting all that work.
Yeah, I think it's a valuable agenda item, even if it's only informational, it's valuable information. I mean, I think I skimmed through the notes and they did a really great job of kind of capturing the safety concerns and quality of life concerns that the neighbors are voicing, even though it's very different opinions, that's still data for us to be aware of. I think it's very important to have data. And also it seems to set up or imply some kind of more evolution towards a more clear and predictable process for these situations. That seems like something's kind of evolving in the city, maybe in a very loose manner, I guess. So I saw some kind of good thing of that. But mainly the data, I think the qualitative data, maybe the comments were really useful to me, really interesting.
I have a comment, Stephen. So reading the PowerPoint and just kind of reading the notes, is there any plan for the city from Bircham north on Harrison to Hazlet to complete the road diet for that section of Marble and the middle school to make it one lane? Hagedorn, yeah. Like, because, you know, because right now it's, you know, it ends from Grand River to Bircham, you know, on Hagedorn. Is that like a looming to complete the whole Hagedorn to make it a road diet or?
Yes. Yeah, so
Okay.
that's on 2028's, the TIP, which is the Transportation Improvement Plan, schedule. The TIP is the, regionally, administered federal funding program. Does that include that stretch road? And it would include looking at a road diet.
Oh.
I think there'd be some challenges there, obviously, with the school, and then also just traffic might be a little bit more than the south piece of it, but we would look at it as part of that.
Oh, just curious.
I wanted to comment that I thought the notes about the meeting discussion, I'm not sure I've seen that level of detail come back, and it was incredibly valuable to see that because we often get sort of the most vocal voice that comes here and goes to the podium. And this was a much more representative slice. I mean, people who cared enough to go to the meeting, but it was a broad, and as someone who's kind of were charged with representing the community in a way, I really valued hearing a lot of very kind of reasoned voices. So I just want to thank whoever put the time into that because
That was, that was our staff, Danny Stalin, who's our new engineer on board, and she is very detailed that way, and we appreciate her for that.
Yeah, that pass along kudos because
Yes,
that
I will.
Right, any additional discussion on that point?
Just out of curiosity, what's the next steps? We'll think,
Yeah, I think, there's a couple of questions that are probably need to be answered. We want to follow up with letters to the residents, just letting them know the next schedule. Obviously, the local street resurfacing program or project is going to go forward regardless. So there'll be some amount of traffic calming as part of that. I think Ron, Ron, the Public Works Director and council are trying to, and with the city manager is trying to figure out the next steps with the stop signs. Whether they're gonna go forward with those still with the recommendation, or if it's gonna be like a combined, agenda item, basically saying, here's the stop signs, but here's also the traffic calming elements that we've considered and are considering. And then at that point, we would present, kind of what we did in that PowerPoint, but actually saying, these are the specific, whether it's raised crosswalk or bump outs or whatever it is, these are some of the things that we recommend at that time. So that they can have a complete picture when they vote on it. So I think that's still being decided on.
All right. Moving on to unfinished agenda, 5.1, traffic calming action plan update.
Yeah, I can start on this one. So obviously we don't have the plan like we were hoping to have at this meeting. And I do apologize for that. The consultant is working on it. We are pushing them. We're pushing them, but we also want them to be thorough. So we understand they're looking through a lot of different action plans and doing comparative, analyses and things. And so they're pulling elements, and then they condense it down to something that's simple for ours, or, that, some of the key elements that they're looking at right now that they've been asking us about is maintaining some of the same process, but just making it clear. So how the petition works, how it goes through the residents, the discussion, the meeting and things. The other thing that they're looking at is the getting rid of the point system for as far as a threshold, but more of just an informative. So that's still, we're not sure, so they have it in there. They've changed some of the elements of it, getting rid of 85th percentile, for instance, and more just kind of relying on the percent of violators. Maybe incorporating like the amount of support by the neighborhood as a factor, and then also sidewalks, because we have received that feedback recently. But I think it's still up in discussion, as far as whether that's something that the city wants included in that at all. But that could just be, if we're going to use it internally, it could just be a ranking system, or like just for our own informational purposes as like a comparative analysis, or just informative for the decision. So that's kind of something that we are deciding. And those are some of the elements that I see in there right now. We do hope to bring, I did reach out to the consultant today and just verified, like, are we going to have a good, draft basically to present to the commission next Monday? And he said, yes, we should be able to have that. So the idea is that draft will have everything that they've worked on, plus all the recommendations from the draft that you guys prepared. So there'll be elements that they'll pull. And then from there, you guys will be able to, have, that input in that draft, how you want to move forward on that. So
Are you hoping for feedback on the draft in our meeting on Monday, or are you
yes,
present it to us on Monday and we can take it away and send feedback in, or both? Or neither?
I think, yeah,
I don't think we should expect to have a lot of time after we're done
No.
with the city planning conversation to talk about this.
yeah, I think it would make sense that we have one meeting that's, I think it'd be the comfort level of the commission. If you really liked the plan, you thought it was excellent, wanted to move forward, you just, in the interest of time, wanted to move forward. But I would expect that you'd probably, review it at that meeting and then want to send in comments or aggregate something else, and then have that other, have a different version at the March meeting. So leave that kind of to the commission, but
One comment since we're talking about the traffic calming action plan, waiting for the consultant to get feedback and then see how we connect it to the bike friendly sensing draft or suggestions, right? I don't know if I've lost track because there's so many little details, like types of calming and different documents interacting, but maybe you already talked about it, but kind of a process question, maybe for future consideration, because it's already a really big task to revise this actual plan, right? Right now, as I understand it, and even when it's revised, maybe not, the plan will mainly get activated if this happens. That's if residents submit a petition, right? Is that the correct understanding or not?
Yeah.
Okay. So at the same time, I think sometimes it looks like that may be happening, going to happen in Southeast Marble, that would consider traffic improvements as part of a major resurfacing or reconstruction project, right? I think that was into that.
Yes.
Okay, so that's a sui generis one-time case, right? Where because of the local residents, this is being done, that you're not just fixing the streets, but you're going to consider consciously traffic calming stuff, right? So I think my suggestion would be that as this plan is updated, we should ask as a commission whether there should be situations that are formally defined where traffic calming is triggered automatically. Whether it's a road improvement project like in Southeast Marble, or there could be other triggers like besides capital projects. It could be, we've noticed that 85% of the drivers are going, I'm just throwing something out, 10 miles over the speed limit. So that would be a trigger, or maybe an unusually high number of people are getting hit, maybe, just throwing out examples. But I guess I would like to encourage us to consider that. I don't know if it would be parallel to and integrated in the traffic calming action plan or a separate piece. I'm not really sure how that would work, but just something that allows for these traffic calming safety improvements without residents having to ask for it. Just, it's good for them to ask for it sometimes, but I wonder if we should consider that other thing. I know other cities have that model where there's automatic triggers, like this happened, the city is gonna get on the ball or something without the residents complaining.
Yeah.
Just something.
In the draft we're working from right now, there's a mention of a specific complaint volume threshold in a certain amount of time. Looking at this crash data, I think that we should add something to say a certain amount of crashes on a road within a certain amount of time. There's also mention of major reconstruction of a road that is eligible for traffic calming.
The draft,
That's added.
my friend takes my thing, right?
Yes.
I guess I
Any
forgot
request-
what's there, sorry.
Any request made by a city council member, city staff, city, county road commission, or state department of transportation would initiate the process.
Okay, in that case, I guess I lobby for this item to be kind of continue the conversation about the, just a comment.
Yeah.
Can't resolve right now.
And just to color the conversation a little bit more, want to remind them with the neighborhood, what was the document that we passed last year?
The non-motorized
Non-motorized
transportation.
transportation, thank you. That has items in it of areas, neighborhood streets that had been identified as being more dangerous. And with the recommendation of next time that these are worked on, you should implement these traffic calming measures.
And to mention, I'm glad you brought that up, Martin. I think what also happens that since we've updated since we did the RFP and the consultant spent like a good, year and a half, 2 years creating the non-motorized transportation plan, like knowing that a lot of residents see the traffic islands or the pedestrian islands, they see the new crosswalks with like the flashing beacons, they see like even on Albert, they see like the green little bike lane and whatnot, like slowly, very slowly, like we're incorporating these kind of mechanisms within the city. And I think a lot of times the residents will organically say, I think we need a traffic island. I think we need better crosswalks. I think so. It's like, I don't want to be too restrictive to say, hey, if you meet this threshold, we're going to automatically give you this. It's like, I do think there should be some flexibility that like, as a residents that we're all like living in East Lansing, we kind of know, oh, this would be great in this area, or like, why don't we have a crosswalk? Like, I think you ask those questions, and hopefully through the petition making process, there's, working with city staff that they can kind of work on what those solutions could be. Because the biggest thing that, I, as the former chair, always had to work with Stephen is like, what are the costs to these things? Because, like there is always this idea of like, we want all these great things, but there is a cost with pedestrian islands, the hawks, the raised crosswalks, whatever. So it's like, I don't want to prescribe something that the city can't afford.
Yeah, no, he just for staff use, city use its discretion. One of the items for is the budget, as well as engineering expertise, but something, that acknowledges the problem. So that's important. I'm maybe putting out a for discussion for when we're actually getting to the nitty-gritty of this provision for the plan.
Any additional discussion? All right, that brings us to 5.2. Discussion of invitees and topics for the 2026 meetings. So we have a list here. And I don't remember, did we get a chance to talk about this at all at the last meeting?
We did a little bit, and the only thing that I wanted to formally put on the agenda, I know it's already on here, but the funding presentation, it should be like funding / budget presentation, like specifically, and I talked to Stephen, well before, is like just kind of educating the commission on the income tax, the new, bipartisan infrastructure project that the governor signed into law, and just kind of seeing where the city lies with there's, revenue sharing and everything else to see what the whole picture looks like for what we spend from a city perspective on repairing our infrastructure.
Were there any additional topics that people had thought of or were interested in?
A lot of
Do you want to talk about your
There's a lot of
email that you
topics on
sent?
the list that are really interesting. I think I was just brainstorming. I think maybe I have 2 ideas. I don't know how realistic they are. Maybe invite someone to present on Vision Zero or safe system principles. I know that several Michigan cities have been working on this framework for habits. So I think having an outside perspective, the pros and cons, because they've actually worked with it, right? Might give us a better lens for talking about it and deciding if this is a good thing for East Lansing or addressing safety questions. It'd be more of an educational presentation. I think we all know what your is, but more like how is it working in your city? What problems is it creating and so on. So that would be one speaker in Vision Zero. I think the second one, but I think that's happening with their planner, is I noticed first of all that the planning commission, their agenda had an announcement about the MAP transportation bonanza. Have you heard of that? That sounds kind of like up our alley, but it was mainly in their agenda, the planning commission. So the planning office is offering to pay for 2 of their commissioners to attend the transportation bonanza, which I feel maybe we should try and attend, but it's like $90, I believe. It's coming up in February in downtown East Lansing, believe it or not. Oh, you're attending. Is that independently of this or?
So I'm attending it independently as a MAP member. I'm
Oh, you're a
also
member of
a board member of the MAP
Oh.
committee. So I'm attending it.
Oh, cool. So maybe we can piggyback on your attendance and you can report. But that made me think that a lot of what we discussed here, I'm not sure who could come in terms of speakers, but we do a lot of smart, good, hard work here, but I think a lot of it tends to be downstream effects of planning and zoning decisions. So it's like we're dealing with decisions that have already been made, like should we have parking permits, stop signs, all of which have been shaped by a bigger force. Maybe that is our role, is just to deal with the little details like stop signs, parking and safety issues. But I think if planning could come, and I think they are coming the next meeting, is the plan coming?
Yes.
Okay, so maybe that's happening already. Something that would kind of help us understand how we could better integrate planning and transportation so that both can be better served in the city. So that would be my second suggestion, but maybe that's already happened.
On the Vision Zero, do you have any recommendation for who that individual is?
Good question. I don't, but I could certainly do some research and bring forth recommendations for the commission to consider.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Stephen, for next steps on the actual agenda, I'm assuming some of this is legwork on the city's part to actually sort of extend invitations. Is that true?
Yeah, I think could be a collaborative, if you know somebody from Vision Zero, feel free to pass along their info or my info to them and they can kind of coordinate that, whenever we want to have them speak. And yeah, I appreciate you bringing up that transportation bonanza because I can pass along all the information for there as well. It is $90. It's February 10th, right? Yeah, yes. So that's a good one. I don't think for whatever reason, we're not like planning. We don't pay for, I can check it though. Maybe there's something in the budget that I'm not aware of. That'd be nice to be able to send commissioners to that. Yeah, please do. Well, I'll check, make sure.
Is there city staff that's attending?
I'm gonna check on my end, but it's a full day, right? That'd be difficult for myself, at least personally, but
Sounding interested, please, but that.
a full day is that's a hard.
It's an extremely dense agenda, just off looking at it right now.
I wish I could actually.
You don't have to go through the whole thing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's part of it.
Not a invitee, but a topic that isn't listed, that's just something that we were just talking about, not motorized transportation plan. We have mentioned in the past, like to check in on that, and see where we at in terms of it being involved in past efforts and progress and that sort of thing.
Right now it's more informative. So, an example would be, MDOT is, rolling out, 2 projects for 2028 and 2029. They're, signal modernization projects, one along the Grand River corridor, predominantly, except for Kensington is going to be in the 29, which is along Saginaw. So,
Just to clarify, this was meant as a idea for a topic.
oh, I see. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Yeah. The project.
And then another thing I would like to add to the topic is an update on the graduate hotel with the valet parking. Especially Stephen, did council approve the expansion of the Rock Bar?
I don't believe so.
Oh, is that like just did they just haven't done anything or has this been denied?
No, so I think there's ongoing, both, I think on both ends. I'm not sure.
On the agenda back.
Okay, so no decision's been made.
No, it's supposed to come back to the commission at some
Okay.
point. For the valet parking, they've done a study. I'll just go ahead and just
Yeah, give us an update. I
give
don't.
an update real quick.
Your question was specifically about the expansion of the Rock Bar,
Yes, and
not the valet
So,
parking.
well, they go together.
They're tied together.
They're tied together.
they're both going to be presented
Yeah,
together.
yeah.
So I think I'm not sure if the valet parking is holding up that, or I think they might have their own issues with some of that screening. So it may not just be transportation, but, so they did propose, in response to our request for additional information, what we had requested was give us a number basically of how many parking spaces you need. What's the queue length, on an average, or even a peak. Just give us an idea. That way when because they were throwing out these plans for parking, but Ron didn't like that because you don't know what's your demand basically to meet your demand. You don't really know. You're just providing parking spaces without knowing that. So, they did that study, and then after that study, the fire marshal came back and determined that they actually need 26 feet of from in the road for the fire trucks, based on the high risers, because you're in between 2 high risers. So, the reason that came up is because their plan that they came up with was each one of the layouts, they had 3 options for them, included turning Evergreen into a one-way parking south. So that's not going to work. They have to do something else there. So that was within the last couple weeks, like 2 weeks, that they turned in that plan, and then that response went back to the hotel. Hotel said, oh, can we just, it's not permanent parking, it's just valet parking, and fire said, no, we need that full 26, it has to be there, so that's why keeps getting kicked down, it's just an ongoing.
Well,
headache.
it kind of serves my point that I think having this commission still be engaged with it, because when I was first on the body, this came up and we had a representative from Graduate Hotel come and talk to the commission. And the biggest concern I expressed at the time was making sure first responders have access to the Graduate, to that corridor, because God forbid there's ever an accident or a medical emergency at the Graduate Hotel. I want to make sure police, EMS, firefighters can get to the vicinity, as quickly as possible. So knowing that the Graduate wanted to expand the Rock Bar to have more people come in, just continues to kind of give me concern, but it's a very popular place. It's, I believe, the only place in downtown East Lansing that provides valet parking. I don't think the Marriott provides valet parking.
Sure.
So it's a service that I think it's good. They just have to find a way to work with the constraints of the roads. So I just think keeping in the back of the agenda, Warner, would be good, just so whenever there's more of an update, and even if it just gotta asking Stephen, hey, is there an update on this? Because I do think, we should have another kind of formal debate if a decision's been made, or if our council liaison wants an input on us, because planning dictates what happens at the Rock Bar, but we have to kind of figure out the traffic issues that come with, that's why they're connected.
Stephen, for the list of topics, are you looking for, these are the 12 that we would like? Are you looking for January, February, March, April, May, June, July?
No, I think,
Or are you gonna take these back and see if you can connect with people and then just schedule them in as you can?
yeah, I'll probably just take some of the speakers and some of the general idea, and I started looking ahead. I sent an email just to kind of look ahead and start assigning speakers to certain, tentatively. And all that will change obviously as things happen, but at least it gives an idea, for instance, somebody brought up the budget, so I wrote that down for June and July maybe would be, somewhere a good time. So just getting an idea, and if
Shoot. And they're very interested in collaborating. They said, you're all welcome to their meetings. I said that facetiously, I'm sorry. So it's not like they're the younger brother, more the big brother. They've got a lot of great things going on over there too. But I think having that collaboration is really important. So all I know is they want to do that. And then I'm referring them to you, Stephen, to knowing how to go about doing that.
okay.
But there's a great interest over there to be more engaged.
Do you know what the cadence or ceremony scheduling is for them on those meetings? That a weekly, monthly, quarterly?
I'm not sure. The person I met doesn't sit on that commit. I met with Janet Lilly and Sue Webster for the liaisons for the city. They both had, yes, we got a lot of information we want to do. And frankly, I wasn't the right person to talk to. I think Stephen's the right person to talk to about that. So I just want to get that connected.
Yeah, I don't know what, I don't think it is our obligation to be at those meetings. It's obviously not part of the job description. But I would imagine a long-term vision where we have somebody attending those meetings as a representative to, even if it's just our own hanging out and taking notes and bringing them back through to share information, seems like it would be really valuable. And I know I would I wouldn't want it to be like a weekly or maybe even monthly thing, but I could probably once a quarter go, make time to go to a meeting. That's just never been something that's been accessible to us. And there's a lot.
Yeah, I don't know any of the structure, but it's
Yeah.
be good to dive on.
Yeah, yes.
So the committee is All University Traffic and Transportation Committee. They meet once a month. I have spoken to Barney, who heads those meetings. As I had said in the December meeting for our commission, they are very interested in creating that kind of awareness within the campus and with the students. for which there is another student organization, which is the Urban and Regional Planning Students Association, which I am one of the grad chairs for. We are working along with that committee in creating posters, distributing them against in all the departments, putting them across parking ramps. We have changed a lot of parking regulations at the campus and around the campuses with the parking lots. So there is a lot going on with them. And I did request if one of them could represent or be present in one of the public hearings with the Transport Commission. But I haven't heard anything back on that yet. If I do, I will definitely communicate that.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that.
Any additional discussion on those topics? All right, so that brings us to committee reports. Don't think we have any outstanding committees right now, so TBD in the future. And that will bring us to announcements and board member comments. We'll start. Commissioner Moore.
I don't really have anything. I just want to congratulate our new chair for taking, the reins and, gonna do a good job and just kind of steer us in a good way and, wish you the best of luck. So congratulations again.
Well, I'm gonna use my comment time to turn it right back around and say a big thank you from myself and commissioners for former chair for your efforts in the last many years. I think we've benefited from kind of steady guidance through some really challenging conversations and ceremonies. I know, having sort of been there right by your side through a lot of that, how kind of taxing it can be and the weight that you've carried. And I know we've all really appreciated your leadership and kind of how professionally and sort of excellence that you've brought to that position. So a heartfelt thank you. And both, I have to try and live up to that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I had something else and I've totally blanked on it. So there you go. I didn't write it down. That's my fault.
If you come back to it.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm making this up. I thought something, I thought it was an email earlier today about a training coming up for chairs and vice chairs.
Yes.
Okay.
So that was an odd one because nobody was elected chair, or,
Right.
that was still, but so it'd be, February
Well, I think.
12th, yes, in the evening. So let me know, just send me an email and just let me know if you can make it, and then I'll send that RSVP over to the clerk's office. If not, then I'll take notes and bring them back.
Okay, yeah, I should be able to.
I'm planning on
Okay.
attending, but I will send you the email as well.
Okay.
Want to make a mention over the weekend. I made the decision to try to go to Chipotle in downtown East Lansing and turning left off Grand River, north on Bailey at Samia Cookies. There's enough cars with their hazards on, and no drivers or drivers in the seat just with the hazards on, that I wasn't able to go down the street. I just had to sit there and like wait, and like eventually somebody moved and I was like trying to squeeze through without scratching anybody's car. And then like the people get in their cars and they just have their phones on and they're driving away. And it's like, it's crazy. Like you can't even, and sometimes you can't even use the road because like I understand these people are trying to make a wage, maybe a living off of this, but it's not sustainable. I don't think the city should have to, and pedestrians and other drivers should have to, have that cost put on them because people are deciding to do that. So I just want to gripe a little bit about that. And also, I know we normally don't get this much snow, but when we have right now, like decide to go on walks. And there's not a whole lot of sidewalks that are shoveled. And it looks like looking at the forecast, we're not gonna have thawing temperatures. Why? So that's all like just gonna turn to ice, and I'm very sympathetic for anyone who has seen mobility issues because you just like you can't, use the sidewalks or anything. Some, campus is really good. Campus clears them really well. But and there's some within the city that are pretty well cleared. I can tell the sidewalk plows have gone through like on Grand River, but yeah, I could have a full-time job calling the dispatch and, putting in complaints about addresses that haven't shoveled. That's just, that's not sustainable. I'm wondering, is it possible for Pace just to like go around and try to notice places that haven't been shoveled? I can get around okay, but it's not equitable. Especially in places where like I see that the snowplow has gone through and all the snow that was on the road is now on the sidewalk. It's like that's really showing our priorities, So if there's anything that we could do about that, that'd be great. Thanks. That's all.
I want to jump in real quick just to the comment about Bailey. To maybe a little bit of a heads up, there's a new restaurant there. There's like an ice cream waffle place that went in. And as popular as Insomnia Cookies has been, the waffle place is showing to be as popular. And so that order right there is about twice as bad, and it is probably just gonna stay that way. So the city may want to pay attention to enforcement. It's going to be worse going forward.
That's good.
I was planning to attend that training on the 12th. Is that inappropriate?
You can just send me an email.
Okay, that's all I've got. Thanks.
You're referring to the parliamentary procedure book. So it would be okay if I attend and just learn, I guess, if I have time.
Just call yourself a future chair, vice chair.
They don't do this every year, right? Do they do this?
Yeah,
every
I
No,
can do that.
and I did, one of the speakers that I wanted to bring here possibly was the clerk. So some of that stuff might be covered here as well, but this would be, you're welcome to come to that one too, because that's gonna blanket everything, I think, at that meeting, or maybe that'll cover everything that that speaker would come for. I don't know. We'll see.
But we still will have somebody come here speak directly to our body about these things.
I'd asked, Amy, excuse me, if she would be deputy clerk, and she was, or I talked to one of them, Emily or Amy, but yeah, they expressed interest. I forget which one. That was one of those.
Good deal.
The biggest part of the procedure is knowing when there's a conflict, either with either with a member of our commission. Like I think there was times where, usually our motions are not recorded of like who actually voted yes or no, but like usually the chair has the discretion to actually call for like the actual yays and nays to actually have a record roll call vote if we know it's going to be contentious. So it's like things like that there's things that like you as chair should be aware of, that like just because you may foresee that, it's like calling for that. And then also too, like a lot of the times if we know there's a lot of public, anxiety and a lot of passion, how do we make sure the public has their proper like 5 minutes or 3 minutes or whatever, but also too that we as a body have our time to actually speak and work. So it's kind of making sure that you just know the procedure so you can shut down debate appropriately and not saying that we're actually not hearing you. Like we listen, we're now moving on. Like it's very beneficial just to understand the rules, because when you're part of the commission, especially chair, vice chair, like, you want to kind of back it up with knowing those procedures too. So you just kind of, you look the part. That was my comment.
Good. Just two things. So just reiterating my point that it's a little vague, but maybe evolving the words is, again, we have often debated stop signs, speed bumps, trucks, without really any systematic shared framework to assess those sometimes. And I think it would be helpful if we start looking somehow to develop framework or a common lens that would help us evaluate those requests more consistently, whatever that may be. So that's one thing I'd like to work on this year. This is the comment. Something where I think I might be going. The second comment is, yes, I totally agree on the sidewalks. I walk, basically, it's only like a mile and a half to work at MSU from my neighborhood. And yes, the sidewalks are a mess. I mean, it's difficult because I understand a lot of people may not have time or the ability to shovel. So I don't know what the solution is, but I do know that one thing that happens, and I don't know if the city could do something about it, is when they plow the roads, I think you mentioned that the snow gets shoveled and blocks the handicap that you have at every corner. What do you call it?
The ADA ramps.
Yes. So those don't serve their purpose anymore. And I don't know, it would be kind of, I imagine impractical to clear them all. I'm not really sure, but it's just something I kind of have to hop over. It's a big sidewalk. And the other thing is, yes, I compare and contrast MSU to East Lansing. I know we couldn't do it in every neighborhood, although they do it in all the sidewalks. I actually saw the machine at MSU. Has anybody seen that? It's this little tractor that goes on their sidewalks that has this spinning brush that spins. Have you seen that? Actually, it's really cool. Like it spits out the snow. I don't know how it does it to the side. It leaves a perfectly clear surface. So I wonder if, I know the budget's a constraint, but I wonder if the city could consider maybe at some point investing. Do we have something? I know that
The city, the city has them.
Yeah, we do. We just do major roads. So we don't do local roads.
Expanding that. Somehow strategize. Okay, Bircham, I think the northern part of the sidewalk is clear.
I'm not sure where it goes, but I think it's a lot, most of the major roads, I want to say, are included in that.
We could expand that. The concern, which it's not just me, because I can, the workout makes it a better workout for me, but I think there are people, we are gonna have more and more older people as time as the years go on, that are gonna be unable to walk and they might want to walk. So I would just say that.
And I want to make a comment. I know that, Evan and, Adon, you've mentioned this before. I think just to kind of put it in perspective, I think there's two things with this weekend or this last week is it's just been so cold that a lot of residents, like even myself, like I have someone that has a snow blower and they come to do our sidewalk in our driveway, like it's just really cold to be outside shoveling. So like I know the ordinance, I believe it's like after the snow stops, you have 24 hours to clear it. But then also too, I've noticed that even when they do clear my sidewalk, that after a day or two, the wind just blows the snow back and it's kind of covered, not to the degree of like, but you still have like 3 or 2 inches of snow. So I don't know what you can mandate or whatever. I just think traveling and walking in these conditions, it's miserable. Just to kind of put that perspective out there, not saying homeowners should, tenants, the landlords, everybody should know their obligations to make sure those sidewalks are clear. But with the cold and the wind, like, even the interstates last night and the roads, salt doesn't work when it's below 20. It's like, there's only so much you can do. Just to, not to push back, but just to have that holistic approach.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
This is my final semester and I have classes on Mondays and go up to 5:50. Just like today, I might be here like 5 or 10 minutes around the clock. That's it.
Yeah, great. I think that brings us to adjournment.
Do you have anything, Stephen?
Oh, yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
So I've got a couple of things. So if someone, there's a non-emergency number for dispatch, 351-4220, then press 2. That gets you to the non-emergency line, and you can call up and give 25 addresses because they basically they don't dispatch out a PACE officer every time. But then there'll be a communication where I was, in my former job, PACE called dispatch, and they would give them all the addresses. So then they can go systematically and check. So there's nothing wrong. I wouldn't call every separate address in, but I would say, here's my list. It's this whole block. Isn't it? Also, the unique part is, once it snows, the clock starts again. I think it's 24 hours.
I think, yeah.
So the problem is this week it snowed a little bit every day. So if it's snowing, people don't have to be out there. So if it snows one day and then it snows the next morning, then the clock, that 24-hour clock keeps on starting again. But I think it's great to call in and say, I think even doing 6 individual addresses on a 2-block area, doing it one phone call is a great plan. And then the pay supervisor can get that and say, hey, this is your job today, is to get all those sidewalks. There is a cold issue. There is some people that are elderly that can't afford that. So I think sometimes, I know that Pace has even knocked on some doors saying, is there an issue? Let's try to see if there's some volunteers or something, but yeah. Walking is, I don't have sidewalks. I wish we did. I don't know, maybe when it's just, all we have is grass. I wish we did, because we have to walk in the street. The other little quick thing, I need to quickly run. I got a fire department swearing in. I need to 20 minutes late for it, which I think may be over. But, so I went to so we had city council. We've been discussing one stop sign for 2 full meetings at city council. It is a stop sign itself one and,
Rosewood.
The fact we've had to devote 2 different evenings to that same one, because there's been confusion about who was saying what. You all voted to have not a stop sign there, which is totally appropriate. But again, I've got a judge in council. I've got to know my own discernment. I've got to know the law and or what you all suggest. Your advice, and then we have constituency. Finally, after lots of discussion, we said, we really need to hear from the neighborhood, because we're hearing conflicting stories. Everybody wants it, and nobody wants it. So finally, at council, we pushed it off again. Just one stop sign discussion. I do like the fact that you've got more of a process, and Stephen has been absolutely fabulous on giving information. So from that neighborhood meeting, it came out that it wasn't uniform that everybody wanted a stop sign from that whole neighborhood. It was uniform that everybody really wants some kind of island. Okay, so that information is getting back to planning. The planning did not suggest, I'm sorry. Clayton did not suggest, and this group did not suggest having stop signs. And now that's been pulled back, saying, we really think that island is more effective. So that is gone to Mr. McCoss now. That the mayor heard that. The mayor and I both sat through an almost 2-hour meeting, an hour and a half meeting about that. But it was great community input. Because a lot of people assumed everybody wanted certain things. And I think it is hard when you only have one item on the agenda. So that is, I think we need to get better at, and I'm not saying you, I'm saying the city, we need to continue to get better at public meetings and information from the neighborhood. And it's all a learning process. I'm learning as much as I possibly can, and I think that the more we communicate with the community communicates with the city, which you're part of, that's really important. So hence, I think it's a good process. Also, we have one seat empty on the table here. After a lot of work and a lot of discussion, great candidates. Brianna Egan is going to be presented to city council for approval as the next board member. She will be brought at city council with it needs to go to city council first. Unfortunately, it's not till after, the day after our next meeting. So as long as everything still works out, that will be a 1st of March thing, which is unusual, but there's just some timing and some conflicts and some issues. So that's where we're at with that. And that's all I have. I appreciate what you all do. I appreciate, really good to meet you. I'm sure it's the first time we've met. But I really appreciate the new chair and I really appreciate the ex-chair. My advice is be careful and not. You can give all of your time to something. I would challenge you to really prioritize how much time and make sure we do the right things. And again, I love a community that wants to speak. And I can't speak highly enough of what the city is doing as far as Stephen's role. And that's all I've got to say about that.
And then to add to your comment, Stephen, I believe when you were our liaison, when we were having that debate on how we voted no, not to approve it, there was discussion, and I don't know if it was just Rosewood or other streets that we kind of wanted the city to almost look at reconfiguring the whole streetscape between that was not, we really couldn't recommend that at the time because the whole scope was the stop sign issue, but like we had a whole discussion about, what we could do to make it better because it is an awful intersection. So obviously it's like, it's those kind of things where it's like.
I've got video of a guy
Yeah.
going through the yield sign and going across the street hitting a tree.
Yeah.
Snapping up a tree, and then he backs up and then he drives away. So the resident called me and said, hey, this guy, look at this video. He said, I'll do the tree, but then the city reached out to him unbeknownst to me and said, we're gonna replace the tree because it's a city tree. There are concerns. We just need we need to figure out as best as possible. And I think the hard part is we need people to be patient. But safety is a concern, we need to do the best we can.
All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made by Commissioner Moore, seconded by Andrew Gallion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Motion.
Excuse me.